Well, it was only a matter of time, but we are getting an anime adaptation of Dandadan. Alright guys, welcome back. It's been a minute. It's been Thanksgiving break. You know, I took a little time off. Got full off of one plate. I feel like that's a big thing this year. A lot of people were talking about how only one plate was enough to get them full, and I'm right there with you guys. It was a lot of food, but hey, it was a good time. And speaking of good times, Dandadan, the anime that just got announced this week, rather adaptation that got announced this week. We got a trailer, and a few days before that we got like, hey, there's an announcement coming soon. And yes, we did get the official first trailer. There wasn't much to talk about from this trailer. I mean, we didn't really see a lot. We just saw little highlights here and there, but there was no, you know, voice actors haven't been like revealed yet and stuff like that. But so yeah, today I wanted to talk about the show itself and talk about the manga itself. And hey, what is it? Well, why should I be excited? Should I be excited? And so yes, just use this video as your first introduction into the property itself if you haven't already familiarized yourself with it. So the main story will follow two characters, the first one being Momo Ayase, who believes in ghosts but not aliens, and her classmate Okarun, who believes in aliens and not ghosts. The two then decide to make a bet to try and prove the other person wrong, but when they find out that both of them are correct, they both freak out and silliness ensues. I will tell you now, if you do want to go into the series blind, this might not be the best video for you. I'm going to try my best not to delve too much into spoilers, but if you want to go in completely blind, don't watch this. I'm going to give you some ideas of what the show is about. So yeah, along the way, besides the aliens and the ghosts, they uncover other things like kaijus and urban myths and stuff like that. So it kind of delves within the realm of that. It kind of reminds me of like Mob Psycho, like early, where they're focusing more on like exercise and yokais and stuff like that, along with like weird urban legends thrown into it. That is the vibe. So if you're into like, you know, like ghost hunting stories or like little scary stories to tell in the dark type of storylines, this is going to be the show for you. And the story starts off with the two main characters. They aren't really friends, they're just classmates. Okarun is into aliens and stuff like that, so he's like a big time nerd about it, like he's into X-Files. And Momo's kind of just like a girl who hangs out. She's like not popular, but she's not unpopular. She has her own little like clique and following, but she definitely is less socially awkward than Okarun. And basically she comes to save the day and like steps up for him when people are bullying him, and that's kind of where their bond begins, where they get to know each other. Momo notices that he's reading these alien books or whatever, and she's like, hey, you're into aliens? They're not real. I'm into ghosts. And he's like, you're into ghosts? That's not real. And that's kind of where the relationship begins, but throughout the story it does grow, and they do kind of form a will they, won't they relationship. So this is going to be another, you know, romantic love interest type led show. It's kind of like a teen romance. It's, you know, the nerdy boy trying to win over the popular girl, and along the way the popular girl kind of falls for him and his weirdness in a way, because she realizes, hey, maybe I'm not so different than him. He's not that weird. And along the way she forms this kind of like protective bond over Okarun. It's not like a kind of, I'm not going to date you, I don't want anybody else to have you, but I, you know, at the end of the day I do kind of want you. But she does have that relationship going for her, so anybody who tries to get close to Okarun, she immediately kind of tries to like shut down towards him and towards anybody who approaches him. And that does come into a play a lot throughout the show. We're going to meet a lot of characters along the way who do kind of like threaten her relationship with Okarun along the way, which kind of makes for a fun little dynamic between them two, because it's like the, you know, the will they won't they teen romance aspect of it. But the main storyline that we'll be getting through the first season, I'm assuming, and because it's still going in the manga as I'm reading currently, Okarun loses a ball. That's right. Actually, no, he loses both balls, like his actual testicles, in a fight with Turbo Granny, who we see in the trailer at the very end. She ends up stealing them, and then she loses them, and he's like, hey, what'd you do with my balls? And she's like, well, you know, I got rid of them, and now you got to go find them, pretty much. They're golden balls. So the whole time, Momo and Okarun are on this mission to find the remaining balls. Like, they have their first mission together where they succeed, and afterwards he's like, hey, actually I still don't have my balls. That lady got rid of them. And that is what brings them together, and what their main objective, I guess, of the series is for them to find Okarun's lost testicles. And if you're wondering, hey, how do they beat these yokai such as Turbo Granny that we saw? Well, they end up finding themselves getting powers, because what kind of show would it be if they didn't have any way of fighting these characters? Momo herself is sensitive to psychic powers, because her grandma, from what we've seen in the manga, she is a high-ranking sort of like ghost hunter, psychic user. So Momo has the ability to use psychic powers, and they are seen through the show as these hands, I guess. That's what they're going to be looking like to us when we see them on screen. They're going to be just like these two invisible hands that grab things and push things and punch things. So that is more or less her ability. It's kind of just like telekinesis, but we can see it. And Okarune is going to happen in the first episode, so I'm not going to... This aren't too big of spoilers because you'll see in the first episode, but if you don't want any spoilers at all, I'm warning you now. He ends up getting possessed by Turbo Granny, and through that possession he gets her powers, the ability to run really fast and kick things super hard. It's kind of like Lita from My Hero Academia. That's what he reminds me of. He's just a fast man, but he has to get possessed while doing it, so it kind of looks like in Bleach when they like take their hollow form or whatever. That's what it reminds me of, his costume, his design of it. And he gets really depressed. That's like the downside of it, is that he just thinks to himself like, life is pointless. What am I doing here? Why do I have to save you? Like, come on, like such a drag. Like Shikamaru from Naruto, very much so, like his attitude towards it. That is his power. So she has telekinesis, and Okarune has Turbo Granny powers, which is just super speed, I would say. And I mentioned earlier Momo's grandma. She's one of the characters we meet. She is like a gilf in all the true senses. She is a fine lady. And we have Turbo Granny, who is the yokai that they encounter at the beginning. She ends up possessing a little bear. No, it's a cat. Sorry, it's a cat, like a lucky cat. And it reminds me of Bleach, the first seasons or so, when the teddy bear gets possessed. I don't know its name, I forget, but it's kind of like that. She just is like their companion, and then we meet a lot of other characters along the way who add on to the group. Me, I've always been one of those ones who were like, once you've established the main characters, why are you bringing in more characters? But the characters that they end up bringing in are pretty likable and pretty enjoyable. I'm not sure how far we'll get in season 1, but I'm pretty sure we'll get the other characters like Ira, who is a very popular girl in the school who ends up like trolling Okarune basically, and like pretending to like him, kind of like a I asked you out on a dare type thing. And then we also get Gigi, who is one of Momo's childhood friends, who Okarune gets really jealous of because he likes Momo, obviously. And Gigi comes in kind of like they used to like each other growing up, they're like, we wanted them to marry each other, like that type of vibe. So those aspects of conflict between Momo and Okarune's like love life gets added onto it. But then we get introduced to Ira and Gigi more throughout, and they establish them more. We realize that it's not really like that, even though Ira ends up liking Okarune, but Gigi doesn't really like Momo. He kind of does his own thing. One of my favorites is Gigi. He becomes really cool, and he's just like a funny man. But the show itself is really funny, or it's going to be funny because the manga itself is like hilarious. There's parts where I read it and I'm like, yeah, I can't believe they said that, or what are they doing? And yeah, it's going to be a fun time. People are going to enjoy it because it is like that aspect of it. And I've only gotten through like the first like 70 chapters of it, and it doesn't get too serious from what I've been reading. It might along the way get deeper, but it does very much have like that early shonen vibe to it, where it's just going to be like a good time, like a kind of a bad guy of the week vibe, but also like a little bit of conflict thrown in here and there, with a cool power system and a cool environment and a world that they've built, because they bring in so many things that you're like, oh, they're doing ghosts and they're doing aliens, but then here comes kaijus, and it's like, what are we doing here? They're just throwing everything at you, and it's like a mystery-filled adventure, really. My only worry is that the first fights that they have get a little pervy. They're gonna people might get put off by it, but it does get better from what I've been reading throughout. That it kind of strays away from that. In the beginning, we see a lot of like Momo in her bra and panties, and then we see Ira in her bra and panties, and I'm like, dude, why do we keep doing this? Like, what's going on here? But if you can get past that part of it, that weirdness of it, then you are in for a treat. It is a fun ride throughout, and the animation company that's doing it is Science Saru. And they recently did the Scott Pilgrim show. So if you've seen the Scott Pilgrim, the Netflix show, then you'll kind of know what you're in for. I'm not really familiar. I didn't really research too much into it, what else I've seen by them. But for sure, I've seen Scott Pilgrim by them. I did enjoy that. I did like the animation for that. So the animation that they've chosen for this is good. It's good that Mappa's not getting this, because Mappa has too much on their plate. I wouldn't want them to handle this too. And it's cool because the style that they can do it in, it can be very loose and very fluid, but it also can be detailed at the same time, because the manga panels are just... Manga panel? Why does this sound... Every time I try to say that, it becomes weird. Manga panels are highly detailed for like a weekly, bi-weekly, shonen. The panels are amazing. It's just funny because like I went from reading Chainsaw Man to reading Dandadan, because I finished Chainsaw Man and I was like, hey, then what do I want to read? And Dandadan was like one of the first ones, so I was like, let's read it. the drastic difference between the art of Chainsaw Man and Dandadan, it's crazy, like how good the art in Dandadan is. And you know, Chainsaw Man has good art, but like I feel like the anime adaptation did a lot for that because it made it a lot better. But with the Dandadan one, the panels are so good that I feel like the animation could not be as good as the panels, because the panels are just like super highly detailed. But from the trailer, I'm trusting it. It looks good. I want it to be a little bit more glossy. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but in my mind, the way I read it, it looks a little bit more glossy than what we've seen, but it is only a trailer. And I'm also really excited to see what they do with the voice actors and what choices they're going to make, because a lot of the times when you're reading the mangas, the voice that you use for characters do not match the vibe completely. I try my best, but it's more interesting to hear what the actors do themselves. It's going to help it out a lot, I feel like, in my mind, because I already like it how it is, but like if I see it on screen, it's going to like make it 10 times better, or it could make it worse. I hope not. But I feel like a lot of the times the voices do a good job of capturing it. It's really hard not to give you guys like a spoiler-filled review of it. It's tough, but I'm trying to get you guys excited for it as best as I can. But basically, you should be excited for it if you want a new twist on the shonen genre, because it is going to be going into the world of like mystery, ghost hunting, but also like comedy and like vibrant colors, and just like the world of like aliens and X-Files, and like we haven't gotten anything like that in a while, I feel like, or anything serious like that in a while. So I feel like this is going to be a good you know, addition to the categories of manga and anime that's already out there. I don't see it becoming levels of like Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen type big, but I feel like it's going to be one of those, like, funny enough, like cult classics, because like cults kind of tie into this a little bit. I feel like it might be one of those like low-key heaters. People are going to really like it and enjoy it, but if you're not like, you know, tapped into the culture of anime like that, you're probably not going to hear of it until somebody brings it to your attention. But the fact that it's already getting an anime adaptation anyway is, you know, enough confirmation for me, having read it, like, you know what, this is a cool show and people, you know, could end up liking this a lot. And there are going to be fan favorites and people that, you know, you don't really like. But for the most part, I think it has a lot of good things going for it. Like I mentioned, the story is really interesting, the characters are really fun and cool and interesting, and the world itself is like fun and interesting. It's all a fun and interesting time, and I feel like a lot of people are going to enjoy being in that world, those who end up taking the journey along with us. I don't know if it's going to get like 12 or 24 episodes, and even where it's going to end. So for those who do read the manga, I feel like maybe we'll get up to the Gigi's story. I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but I feel like we're going to get Gigi's storyline, and that's kind of like a good ending point for the first arc of the anime. If you agree, let me know down below. But I think that's probably like the safest bet, I would say. Like his story is where we're going to get to, which is going to be a lot of stuff for you guys to see. The first arc, there's going to be a lot of cool things that are happening in there. There's really not too much filler, I would say. It is from like the beginning to where I'm at currently, which is like 70 chapters ahead. It's like all fast paced. There is like one little part where it's kind of like it feels slow, but it's funny because the characters themselves are kind of like, what do we do now? This feels like we did everything, and then like just stuff keeps happening to keep you moving along. It's like they recognize like, well, what do we want the characters to do now? And they're like, oh, we can have them do this, and then they're like, all right, let's throw them into another adventure. So it's going to be a constant action-packed series with hardly any slow points in the first season, I think. So yes, very high energy, overstimulation in your face. That's what the show is going to be all about. So if you're into weird things like that, like Invader Zim, but like a little bit toned down, that's the vibe you're going to be getting with this show. So, Dandadan, are you excited for this? Are you not excited for it? Let me know down below. Are you going to read it? I suggest you do. It's on Shonen Jump. It's really easy to read. But if not, let me know down below your thoughts overall with the series and you know, everything going on with it, or what else you're looking forward to in 2024. What series you want to come to the anime world, or what sequels you want to see that are coming in the anime world of 2024. All that stuff, let me know down below. Also, follow down below, comment down below, subscribe down below, all that stuff that you need to do for me, that's down below. And yes, that is going to be my my preview of Dandadan. Until next time, go hunt something, a demon, or a ghost, or an alien.